Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And OpTic may well have their biggest match of the entire season this upcoming weekend. They need to beat Toronto Ultra to get to the winner's bracket at the major to give themselves a decent chance of having a confidence-building major through to the World Championship as well. But what exactly has gone wrong with this team the last couple of weeks or so? Why is Scump looking like their best player? Certainly, is it just Scump looking unbelievable at this point of the game as he was last season? Or is it kind of the other guys, the star players, more so theoretically stepping off their level a little bit, and even FormaL giving an indication as to how the OpTic team kind of mentally collapsed at the end of last year? Is a similar trend continuing this time? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Really have said the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Firstly, I thought this is funny really here. As Gina says, Kenny during any CDL match. The YYing is absolutely out of control. This guy's cracked out of his mind. Me personally wouldn't let him talk to me like this at Kenny Wrights. I mean, yeah, this is just Kenny POV 101 right here. Now, I wanted to look at some crazy stats actually. I mean, Drazah and Cellium, man, they are going back and forth this year. These are the overall season KD leaders. Drazah has a 1.21, Cell has a 1.20. These are kind of the rest of the top five. Attach with a 1.12, Temp with a 1.10. But yeah, this is honestly a great storyline, right? Because, I mean, look, FaZe in general, they haven't won an event, but on average, they've had better results. Like, if you had to choose a season MVP right now, who is it going to be? Like, I'd probably lean Cellium right now, just based on consistency and performances and stuff like that. But certainly the final two events are going to, well, cause an awful lot of impacts to how exactly this ends up working out, right? But I mean, outside of Drazah and Cellium, who are having a great battle right now for who could drop the highest and most consistent KD numbers, Attach, it's even Temp right here in fourth. I mean, Attach definitely deserves a lot of credit as well. What he's been doing on Minnesota this year, like, he's been causing, like, he's responsible, I feel like, for the vast majority of their series victories. Temp also with a 1.1, like, that is honestly impressive, right? Regardless of what you think about Temp playing for kills or whatever, the fact that he's able to drop a 1.1 in a team that's just getting ultra fried, like, it is literally 2 in 20, is pretty impressive, because if your teammates are dropping all around you, like, it's actually quite difficult to have the map control and the positioning to even get enough kills to go positive, so that definitely is worthy of note. And then Awakening, Hydra, and Methods at one point had like a 1.3, or like a 1.23 maybe, or something like that. Now he's on a 1.09, but Hydra's even there as well. Like, that's honestly kind of crazy that Hydra's a 1.09 as an SMG. Like, you know, of course, the highest placed SMG in terms of KD on this entire list. I guess you can consider Awakening as well, but is he really an SMG? That's a question you might ask yourself. So Crone did kind of think he was Russell Westbrooking his stats a little bit, right? Potentially 10, but still, I think he's doing well enough to get a spot, hopefully somewhere next year. I want to see, like, this is the thing with Paris, though, like, that even Crone was mentioning. I don't know if you guys remember this last year, but they had Temp at the end of last season, but instead of signing him on again as the 1+1, they released their entire team and then re-signed him a few months later, effectively so that, okay, the league minimum salary might be 50k, but if you release your whole team after the season ends and then wait 4 months to sign them again, then you actually save 4 months of salary payments, right? So it's kind of genius from Paris, but it does mean that, okay, this 1+1 effectively got renewed last year by Paris, so if they wanted to pay him the extra 4 months and then keep Temp on board and extend his contract, they could do that, unless, of course, a buyout comes through. In which case, I'm sure they could come to an arrangement, right? But certainly an interesting discussion nonetheless. Now, look, this weekend, it's kind of CDL bounty weekend again. For some reason, there's more bounty games. I'm kind of surprised they didn't learn from their lesson the first time around. The fact that maybe this 10k for each of these matches could be used to much more effect, but it is what it is. OpTic versus Toronto is a very important bounty match for this weekend, not just for the 10k, but mainly because it's probably one of the crucial games this entire season, and not just OpTic, but Toronto as well, actually, based on the way they've been looking lately and the fact that they need a bit of a rebound as well going into, well, this, of course, coming week. They do play Boston, the Toronto guys, before they play up against OpTic, but there's a very reasonable possibility, the way that Boston are playing right now at 3-1, the Toronto will be 1-3 going into their OpTic series, and if that is the case, then things get very spicy indeed. So almost certainly, at least unless Toronto beat Boston, one of these two teams will be in the losers bracket of the major, and if you're in losers, that of course puts you in a very difficult situation. Now, yes, OpTic could make a run through losers, that's certainly possible, but are they going to get better than like top 6 from losers? You know, seems a little bit of a difficult run. It's certainly possible, but the way they're playing last week, probably not going to be the case. The fact that this match is on Sunday will be beneficial, gives them a couple of extra days of practice, but that losers bracket is going to be stacked, because you're going to get teams like, you know, who knows what happens to New York, Seattle, like all of these great teams, they could easily drop down to losers there, and you might have a must-win series for top 8. And OpTic also have to consider, to some degree, World Championship points. They should be solidified here for the 2nd seed, but 2nd seed obviously does mean that at the World Championship, they'll play the 7th seed in the first round. Currently Thieves, not a match they want to be playing. Could also be Toronto based on the way that goes, right? So certainly OpTic, probably 2nd seed anyway, and there's nothing they can do too much about that unless Seattle decides to pass them at the major by winning it or something. But their main goal obviously has just got to be to actually improve. Now, FormaL had a few words to say on this actually a couple of days ago, because he was talking about the OpTic team last year and what happened with OpTic Chicago. The fact that effectively they were looking good, and then that like one loss online that they had to FaZe kind of chalked their mental off. Like, I think beginning of they even talked about Envoy said that when they beat FaZe in the Major 5 or the Stage 5 qualifiers early on, like they effectively took their foot off the gas because they thought, okay, we're beaten FaZe, we can relax now, and then the rest of their season kind of fell short of where they were looking to be. Now, yes, of course, that team had its other problems, like the SMG department didn't really make too much sense in terms of who was the aggro SMG, wasn't really one. FormaL and Dashy kind of took over each other's roles, wasn't maybe the best coordinated team anyway, but kind of the outside of the game factors definitely had something to play as well.
And then last year, like, was a good COD. Finally got a good competitive COD at least. Like, everything made sense, and our team was just like, our team was really good at the start. We lost to FaZe. It was kind of chalked. We got 1v3 by Lamar, and then the year was chalked. We didn't make any progress as a team after that, I don't think. Like, having that in the back of our head was just saying.
So it does seem with OpTic that every single year, and yes, this year's been a bit of an exception in the way that there's been some, tragic circumstances going on the early stuff, but at the end of the day, like the consistency in OpTic is impressive. How year on year this type of stuff happens, right? They always have some sort of difficulties they have to overcome. They usually do overcome it to a degree, but never enough to actually win a world championship. They always will come top 3 or something. They'll always look good at the start of the year, as they did this year again, won an event. Then they'll fall off the pace a little bit. Other teams will catch up. Then something will happen they'll need to overcome. They'll maybe do a decent job doing that, but as I say, it won't be enough, and they'll end up coming top 3 at Chaps. If that happens again this year, like, I gotta think, what is wrong with this OpTic team, man? Because it's such a consistent trend. But of course, the other side of this OpTic team is the fact that they're star players. At the start of the season, it was Dashy, it was Shotzzy. It's certainly, there were, no doubt, the best players in the game, pretty much. I mean, I would have had for quite some time Dashy and Shotzzy as my top 3 players in the game. At the moment, though, Dashy might still be there on stats, but like, Shotzzy, at least in his present form, is not performing quite at that level, right? It's a bit of a surprise to me that Shotzzy individually has kind of like, his impact has certainly fallen off the pace. He even said earlier this season himself that he believes 1,000,000% he is the most impactful player in the game by far. But right now that might not necessarily be the case anymore. There's probably 4 SMGs right now, the guys on the flank we're mentioning. You've got the likes of Pred, Hydra, Simp even right now is turning up, and Nero, probably all of those guys, maybe and Scump to be honest, playing it better than Shotzzy right now. So what's going on with these kind of younger guys? Why is Scump again looking like the best player on this team towards the end of the year, despite the fact that that's not really his role and what he's designed to do? Is it just Scump being an absolute monster, which I think is part of it, or is it that the other guys kind of need to turn it up a little bit?
I'm concerned for the team, but I'm not gonna be all doom and gloom yet, considering it's their second series back with this guy, and on top of that, he looks good. They just gotta rally together and start pulling together some wins.
I'm a little concerned that Seth is their best player. That is that not surprising to you guys? He's literally playing the best out of all of them at currently right now.
It's not surprising me at this point in the year, because he's been fantastic all year. He's been doing his thing.
It's not really like a drag on Seth, but it's more so saying like the other guys to me aren't playing as good as they should be on this roster.
I'm honestly not surprised, bro. I feel like we were actually having the same conversation last year in Cold War. I was like, yo, Scump is the best player on this OpTic team.
It's just Scump, dude. Like, it's just Scump, man.
He's gross. Like, he doesn't miss a beat, bro. It doesn't matter how old he's getting. It doesn't matter what game he's playing. Guy's actually disgusting.
Yeah.
The rest of these young guns, they just got to pick it up, man. Like, they're doing it in S&D. We've seen them do it in Respawn. They just got to be a lot more consistent and start playing with some teamwork and some cohesion in that game mode, because the teamwork they have in S&D is crazy. They just got to translate it to these respawns, man. They're struggling in that aspect. Us SMG players got to be Pred, Hydra, Nero, and Simp. In my opinion, are probably the best ones that we've seen in this qualifier so far. Simp has been disgusting too.
They've all been good.
So these are, I think, some rather telling statistics, right? The column you guys want to focus on here is the engagements per 10-minute column, or maybe just the kills per 10-minute column in general. But anyway, these are OpTic stats through the first 3 majors. This is where, on the whole, they've looked rather good. This is Major 3 qualifiers and Major 3 tournament, and then the same for Major 1, Major 2, all the qualifiers, all the matches. So this is considering when they were pretty good. Major 1, Major 2, obviously best team in the game for a time, and then Major 3 weren't so good, but still, stats pretty decent. You guys can see right here, 1.09 for Shotzzy in hardpoint, 1.17 for Dashy in hardpoint, Scump Illy just above even in Search and Destroy. It's a, pretty similar kind of statistical trend. Shotzzy is a monster in Search and Destroy so far this year, but not so much as of late as he was maybe early on. And then in Control, Dashy's got the 1.35, right? This of course also includes Pro Loot stats, but that's why you can see Illy's played less matches here on the right-hand side than the other guys on the team have. But if you guys look at the pacing of the SMG duo, Shotzzy has a higher KD than Scump at this time, but also has more engagements per 10 minutes, right? 3 more engagements, 51 engagements per 10 minutes, most on the team. Scump is second on the team, 48. That is, stats you might expect to see. Very similar story actually here in the control. You can see these numbers here and also kills per 10 minutes. Lately, though, in the Major 4 qualifiers, 4 games played so far, it does show a different story. Still, we do have the same situation where Dashy and Illy playing at a very similar pace here, 45.1 engagements per 10, 45.1 engagements per 10 as well on the hardpoint side. But in terms of the SMG duo, Scump again, 48.9, something along those lines, pretty much what he had before. But Shotzi, instead of having 51 engagements per 10 minutes, is now having 47 and is actually getting less kills per 10 minutes than Scump is, despite his KD kind of being similar. So this is a bit of a surprise to me. The fact that Scump is the player getting into more engagements, like, okay, Shotzi has marginally higher hill time, right? But if you kind of compare the hill time, even before it was Scump getting more hill time, right? So it's a little bit strange the way that OpTic are playing lately, because Shotzi seems to be less impactful in their more recent games. Dashy individually is still getting a lot of kills, but it's not necessarily contributing to victories. And then, questions have been raised for that for a couple of years at this point. So I'm sure Rambo has his perspective on it. But yeah, Shotzi to me is the interesting question, because we said for quite some time, and for good reason, that Shotzi is the most impactful player in the game and certainly on this team. Now he's doing a lot of flanks. He's sitting in the hill a little bit more than he used to be, getting less engagements than Scump, and surely that shouldn't be the way they want to look at it, right? So they're going to have to look at their hardpoint here and figure this out, because if Shotzi gets back to that pace and gets back to that form that he was on earlier this year, OpTic are practically unplayable when he's playing well. But lately, have you really noticed Shotzi that much on the map? Like, what's he been doing? His search and destroy as well hasn't been great. I mean, Scump right here, 1.21 in search. Illy has a 1.83 to be fair, but only played 2 maps so far at this stage. But yeah, Scump I think has just been a monster. He's so consistent, relentlessly consistent every single year. And it was this time last year where a lot of people were saying that Scump's just the best player on this OpTic team once again. And well, who knows if that's the case right now, but I think it's certainly arguable on current form. And they're going to need Shotzi and Dashy to get back to the kind of level where they're dropping crazy numbers, but also winning series, if they want to be a team that's once again capable of winning events, right? So yeah, these are kind of the career cards for the players. I mean, Scump's been doing this for years, but there is a trend, of course, on Scump's teams in general. And I think this year is a little bit of an outlier in the fact that, what's happened with Illy and the Pro Loot stuff, like, OpTic have had to deal with stuff in previous years, but nothing quite to this caliber, to be honest. So it's impressive that they had the performances they did with Pro Loot in, but it's an interesting one, really, because I think when Pro Loot was in initially, Scump was having a lot of talks about, okay, there's no real pressure on us, we're just kind of playing very freely because, like, look, we're playing with a substitute at the end of the day, and they were kind of frying. And then as soon as it became maybe more clear that Illy wouldn't be returning, the pressure started to come on, and the team maybe falls off a little bit, and the other team's obviously grinding harder and stepping up their level. So obviously been a tough year for OpTic, but just wanted to look at this as well, right? Because it's certainly worthy of note. It's kind of looking at Scump's teams, pretty much the OpTic team, like the last several years, and just seeing what happened, really. So, like, look, if we kind of ignore the Jetpack era of the Dynasty days, you guys can see right here, since pretty much Black Ops 4, there's been a rather similar trend in the OpTic teams. They start off so well at Las Vegas Open, then the rest of the year they kind of fall off third, 8th of the playoffs, 3rd of the World Championship of the OpTic team back in Black Ops 4. Modern Warfare, honestly, on Huntsman, a pretty similar story. They start out very well. They win in London, then they kind of keep coming top 4, eventually a couple of top 6s, 3rd of the World Championship again. Cold War, like, honestly, Cold War was like, it was kind of similar the way they ended the year, but they didn't start off the year particularly well. If they'd have won like Major 1 or something, that would have been would have kind of stuck with the trends. But again, towards the end, they kind of fall off in the middle, get a little bit better towards the ends, end up coming 3rd at stage 5 and 6th at the World Championship. And then this year it's Major 1 that they've won, and then they kind of fall off. I mean, look how consistent the trends are really across the board. So like, if OpTic managed to bounce back and come top 3 again this year, that'd be kind of crazy, but it wouldn't be overwhelmingly surprising. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Just this one as well from Breaking Point. With JR was the most OP. The FAL and Black Ops 2 was like, I mean, look, even with the select file, whatever, that was just ungodly. The Man of War was great, the Maddox was great, the XM4 were great, but none of those were overpowered, in my opinion, to the level that the FAL was. There are some other names you could put up here, though, like the MSBS from, I think the MSBS in Ghost, like right at the start of the game, was the most ridiculous gun I've ever played with in COD history. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.